Welcome to MATCHplay, where every episode starts with a spark and ends with insight that can only come from personal experience at the highest level. Let's tee up some good conversation. I'm Thad Miller. Welcome back to MATCHplay. Today's conversation is about private equity and what they're actually looking for when they buy a business. Our guest is my great friend, Pete Munson, Managing Director and co-founder of Cardinal Equity Partners, an Indianapolis-based private equity group. Pete has been with Cardinal since 2008 and focuses on investment management, deal sourcing, and giving strategic advice to the 6 businesses that Cardinal portfolio, as well as 3 other direct investments he has made outside of Cardinal. Cardinal is industry agnostic, but has enjoyed success in a few investments in healthcare services sector. Pete has seen deals from the inside, what gets attention, what gets passed on, and what ultimately determines whether a business becomes a success story or a missed opportunity. This is a conversation about how private equity elevates businesses, what separates great deals from average ones, and what founders need to understand before they decide to sell. Pete, thanks for joining. Great to have you, my man.
Well, I appreciate being asked to be on here with that.
Absolutely. Esteemed podcast. So every episode starts with a spark, a match strike. I'm going to light the match. And when the flame burns out, you'll be asking what it's burning. Ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right. It's Masters Week. And we're going to start out. What's your favorite hole at Augusta?
Oh, I'd say 13.
13. All right.
Yeah.
Dog leg left, par 5, a lot of trouble.
Classic risk reward.
Do you think you could have chipped it closer than Rory last year than that one that he did, a little flub in the creek?
I think, I wouldn't have chipped it. I would have just brought in I played that big draw off the tee, so I'd have been probably about 185 out. And
you'd have been on in 2.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you don't mess around with laying up like him. I mean, all right. What was your first job, Pete? I'm talking about like as a kid.
Yeah. I bus tables at a local cafeteria, but then probably my first formal job was working the Arby's drive-thru.
Yeah. What was the craziest thing you saw at the Arby's drive-thru?
All my friends.
Oh, there we go. They'd come through and mock you.
They would come and stream through looking for extra set of fries thrown into the bag and
some Arby's sauce.
Yeah,
extra
exactly.
Arby's sauce.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. What golf ball do you play, Pete?
I'm a Pro V1 guy, but I've never been fitted for a ball, which I'd like to. And
you're more of a pickleball ball guy right now.
Pickleball guy, yeah.
This is yellow. Pickleball season for you, Pete. So I know the yellow. Do you like the yellow? Are they all yellow? The pickleball.
I should play yellow for pickleball purposes. That would
okay. You really should. You'd be better.
Yeah. And then I occasionally will play like a Bridgestone or a TaylorMade that I'll find. And I'll get a par with it, and I'll think, I should go get fitted for golf.
Yeah, you really should. Yeah, exactly. The free ball works better than the $5 ones you buy.
That's true. That's true.
All right, so getting into it. So Pete, you've spent years working with private equity groups, obviously analyzing and evaluating before you invest, and then afterwards, you're involved. You're deeply involved. Give us a sense of what day-to-day life is for you in general.
Yeah, well, so we're not operators, so we really function more kind of as a board support. So we focus on, setting a strategy and then, making sure we're executing to that strategy over the long haul.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day stuff is there's at Cardinal, there was 3 partners. Now we've had a retiree, so there's 2 of us, but one of us will chair the board, and that person usually is the primary direct contact for the CEO of the business.
Okay.
And there's a consistent kind of cadence of communication back and forth between our firm and the CEO. It could be daily, could be weekly. Really kind of depends on what's going on with the company. But we work really in a heavily advisory role.
How about when you're looking for businesses? Where No, this is good. That's great.
Yeah.
When you're looking for acquisitions, is there something that stands out to you, like that you're looking for a business?
Well, every firm has different criteria, that has it usually driven by revenue size
Mhm.
and EBITDA size, and obviously the sector that they're focusing on. Um, so the things that when you first get an opportunity to look at a business, the first thing that jumps off the page is the financials of the business. So
Right.
that's typically you're going to look at revenue, you're going to look at margin structure, gross margin, EBITDA margin, um, growth, things like that. So that's the first pass essentially is your financial metrics.
Right. And you have a strike zone that you like to you
We
focus on
do.
out of the gate.
Correct. Yeah. The cardinal that would be roughly 10 to $50 million in revenue and roughly $2 to $5 million in EBITDA.
Got it. Okay.
And then there's a sector focus. There's we've done healthcare services deals, which I know you spent a lot of time in.
Absolutely.
We've also done a lot of consumer products deals, and then business services, niche manufacturing, and some value-added distribution.
That's fascinating. Just such a broad array. And when you're looking at that, outside of the numbers, outside of it qualifying, at the EBITDA level and the revenue level, what are some non-negotiables that you really have to have before you even
Well,
consider?
so a big thing, obviously, it's always been big for us, but it's gotten bigger, is the technology side of it.
Yeah,
We don't invest in technology businesses per se, but most of our companies are tech enabled. And that term has changed dramatically over the last 3, 4, 5 years, with the immersion of AI.
sure.
So I think everybody looks at what is the likely impact of AI on this business. So if you get into it and the non-negotiable side, you're looking at the financials, no question. You're looking at all the margin structure, as I mentioned. And really, we can get into it later, but you're picking a partner. So the CEO is assessing potential buyer, and we're assessing the CEO or the founder of the business as well,
Yeah.
because you're kind of buying into a partnership going forward.
Yeah. And that's a two-way street, obviously. I mean, when we work with clients, they're looking to sell to private equity. Obviously, they don't just hand over the keys and walk away. They got to make sure they know you, just like you're trying to figure out, do I want to work with this person? Because it's not easy to just replace a founder, and that structure. Fair.
Yeah, that's very fair. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and firms have different comfort levels. If if the founder wants to walk away, that's probably one set of buyers that are comfortable with that type of transaction. Typically means they probably have an operating partner bench that they can plug in. Our firm is, we partner with the founder, and it is we really want the founder to have an optimistic future. You look in the future of the business, and then really ride it out with us for at least the bulk of our investment cycle, which is usually 3 to 7 years, or could be longer.
3 to 7 years. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, and that's important for people that are thinking go this route to think backwards from that, because if they're like, they only want to work a few more years, if they're going this route, they need to think about 7, if not more. Fair.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, are there patterns you see in companies that consistently get strong offers? Like
Yeah.
if you're competing with people and you see, I mean, some of those companies, what helps them get strong offers?
Yeah, I'd say the financial side of it is undeniable, in the growth aspect of it as well. On the financial side, I usually will, in a quick glance, will look at gross margin being 35% plus, EBITDA margin being 10% plus, and then you're looking for growth. And are they in a sector of the economy that is growing? That if it is, that makes life a lot easier. The
Yeah.
pie's getting bigger per se. And that is going to attract more investors today and also down the line, which is what, anybody that's stepping in today is going to look at what they think it's going to look like down the line. So a growing sector is really important, and maintaining your market share as you go along there, and even capturing more market share. It tells the investor that you're actually doing something better than competition.
What are some
and
things
I'll also say on those margin structures, a lot of those indicate how important the company is in the overall economy, really, and how important they are to their customers. If it's a thin margin business, it means it's probably more of a commodity, and it can probably be replaced easier than a business with a high margin structure.
Sure. Well, and like you said, I mean, the whole AI technology component, I mean, that's just a whole other beast of like, what does this business look like, 2 years from now, let alone 15 years from now, right? I mean, everything's faster, it seems.
Everything's faster.
Yeah. What are some things that founders think matter, but they really don't?
That's a good question. I would say, we'll bring our own relationships with service providers to the table. So banking, insurance, all that kind of stuff, legal, all that stuff. So we're not really relying on their banking relationships. Some founders tend to think that might be important. Culture is extremely important.
That's great. I'm glad you brought that up because that's come up a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, culture, and a buyer can tell really when they on the first tour of the business, they can tell if the company's got good culture or not. So it's extremely important. Probably how you got there. Do you have 35-year employees or 20-year employees? That probably is less important than part of having a good culture is that it's accountable. And if a culture is accountable, you're gonna have some turnover because you're holding people accountable.
Right.
So the employee longevity is nice. It's nice to have loyal people, obviously stable people, but I would say an accountable, positive culture would be more important than employee longevity.
I'm glad you brought that up because I do feel like that's so impossible to replace, especially as an operator, right? I mean, if you have all this change happening, the last thing you want to do is turn over all the staff, right? I mean, that is right. Such a critical piece. And,
right. And remember, we're not operators. So
right. Right.
It makes it really difficult because the last thing we want to do is have to go in and start, hiring a bunch of staff people. So that's very difficult.
Right. All right. So obviously you're focusing on outcomes in addition to buying the business. Walk us through a really successful acquisition that you were part of, you're close to, and give us a sense of like what made that work. What really made that succeed?
I'll highlight a relatively benign industry, a promotional products company. So there's a company called Corporate Imaging Concepts up in the North Chicago area, which we invested in back in 2013. Had a relatively young founder, high energy. The company was probably $14 million in revenue, making maybe $2 million in EBITDA. And it was just promotional products. It was, mugs and shirts and hats, things like that.
Right. Yeah.
But the guy had developed I said earlier about a tech-enabled process for order entry that was more efficient than what we had seen in the industry. And we genuinely thought that was leading to some of its growth. And it was growing, and it had some really nice large company names as its customers. And it was a good setup for us. It was a recapitalization, meaning the CEO stayed on and retained 30% of the business. Mm-hmm. And so we closed on that transaction. I chaired it, so I was really close to the guy. The guy would call me every day, literally every day. He'd tell me a joke sometimes, or he would present a struggle he was having in his business. He just wanted to get another set of eyes on. Because oftentimes these small businesses, CEOs, don't really have a peer per se. So
Right.
sometimes
Right.
it's hard to bounce things off of. So I was somewhat of a sounding board for him, but he positively, he really focused on growth from day one. He knew that was going to be a big primer for him to maximize his 30% investment in the new company. So
Right. Yeah, that's part of it. Like when they sell, obviously they get some money at sale. But ideally, if they participate and they're a 30% owner, that's what you want. I mean, that's the operator. You want them invested. They're not just there for they want to see it continue to grow, and it's good to have a partner like that, right? I mean, that's what
right.
you're shooting for. Yeah.
That's right. Everybody talks about the second bite of the apple, but and that's essentially what it is. It helps in the due diligence process because they're not only a seller, they're also a buyer.
Yeah.
And you do kind of, as a buyer, you make an assessment. Is this portion that they're rolling over into your business, the 20% or 30% equity, how important is that to that person? And
Right.
if you assess it not being important to them, then you're kind of losing some leverage on that. But if typically it's important, most founders that their private businesses, 70-80% of their net worth probably if they did a personal financial statement. So that remaining 20-30% is really important.
Yeah.
And
well,
that
that's
puts
great. Yeah, it's not just you want them still vested, still hungry to grow, obviously.
Correct. Yeah. And it puts you both on the same side of the table.
Yeah.
You're working together essentially.
That's well said. No, that's great advice for the people that we talk to. All right, on the other side, maybe there's some deals. I don't know. Have you ever had a deal go not as planned, Pete?
Never, Thad.
Never.
They're always, hockey stick growth. And
we don't have to name names, but give us a sense of like maybe one that seemed great and then it unraveled and maybe what was the reason?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can. It's somewhat interesting. I mean, we invested in a floor care product distributor. This would have been back in like 2012, probably.
Okay.
And based in Cleveland, and they distributed vacuum cleaners. They had their own brand of vacuum cleaners, and they had some OEM brands, Dyson and whatnot. They distributed those, and they also big parts shop. So they had the lion's share of their business was parts.
Yeah.
And then they also sold bags that went into vacuum cleaners.
Unique custom bags. You can only get the bags from them.
They sold, they distributed them to all the, to the mom and pop, vacuum cleaner stores in the strip malls. So they probably sold, probably 2 years prior to our buying it, they probably sold $7 million in replacement bags.
Wow.
Probably the year before we bought it, they probably sold $6 million in bags. And, obviously that decline and the trend into just the canisters that, almost all of us use today it was obvious and evident, and we saw it coming. Obviously we knew it. They were trying to tell us that while the canisters still use filters, so that you got to replace a filter as often as you replace a bag, which is not true, obviously. But there were other growth opportunities that we fell for. Fell for is not the right word, that we thought were real. We did grow. We did an acquisition that helped with that process. But the decline in bag sales and the margin in the bag sales were really, really difficult to overcome. So earlier when I talked about growing sectors and growing, if your business is in a growing end market, that makes things just easier. I would say it was the exact opposite for this business. So we were We found different ways
Right.
to navigate it. We ended up letting the CEO go and
Yeah.
brought in a gentleman that we were familiar with that who had helped us with another kind of commodity type business. And we plugged him in, and he did a fantastic job. And, we went from 2 years in being really, really worried if we're going to be able to pay back the banks and our mezzanine lender, let alone
Yeah.
our equity, to
Yeah.
recovering. And I think we got like maybe a 1.2 return on our equity, and satisfied the banks and all that kind of stuff. So it just,
Yeah, I'm bringing up old ghosts, it
no, I
seems.
know, I know. See,
And who'd have thought that buying a vacuum company would suck? I mean, really, literally.
yeah, we had a lot of those references. You might imagine.
All
Yeah,
right.
but
Well, thanks for going down memory lane on something
yeah,
you
no,
probably
and
didn't want to think about today.
it really, what it tells you is you can rationalize decisions both thumbs up and thumbs down, and
Yeah.
essentially that's the art of our business is because every deal will have plenty of reasons to say no and plenty of reasons to say yes. So you've got to be able to analyze that. And on that one, I would say we tripped up a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Well,
like I
again,
said,
yeah, but that probably helped you on the next one. So, okay, getting to these founders, these people that own these businesses, and they're considering selling, what should they be thinking about today before they even start the process? Like, what is some advice that you like to see? Because obviously, once they start, it's kind of too late almost. What can they do to prepare?
yeah, no, I think, and you referenced it a little earlier, have a vision for what you want to do for the next 5 to 10 years. And,
Mhm.
if it's go sit on a beach, sooner than later, then you got to take your business toward that end. So you can, walk away essentially earlier. So if you're going to do that, you gotta hire a successor.
Mhm.
And that successor needs to be on staff and needs to be proven that they can lead a business. So, but if your vision is to, to continue to work the business for another 5 years plus, that's a different one, obviously. So,
Yeah.
but probably the first thing is making sure your financials are sound.
Yeah.
I'm sure even in your position, as you take businesses out to market them, the last thing you want to do is have a financial revision while you're in the middle of your deal.
Yeah, it just breaks trust, and it's a non-starter. I mean, it just stops altogether. It's almost
It,
like you gotta start over.
right,
So
exactly. Kills all
yeah,
momentum. So I
right.
would say, make sure you're, really spend time on your financials and make sure they're buttoned up, and then make sure you have the management team that fits what you want to do for the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
that's a great advice. Yeah, like obviously you got to think about replacing yourself, and what does that look like, and how does that best articulate it? So that's great advice. That's absolutely great advice. All right, Pete. So before we close, every round of match play, we have a golf tip that we need to
Ah.
have from our guests. So, Pete, I know again it's pickleball season for you, but it's about to transition into golf. What are you working on on your golf game right now, or what will you be working on that'll help you succeed
Yeah.
on the golf course?
Well, all my friends are probably wouldn't listen to a word I say right now because I have been playing more pickleball than golf. But I did. I got walked into this advice. Somebody I read or saw a video on. I'm not a big lessons guy. I never really had much lessons, but so I've never really known where my hand position should be on my backswing
Right.
and what should I do with my wrists.
Oh my God, you're getting into this. That
Yeah,
is
I know,
deep.
but
That's a deep dive.
I know. Well, here, so it made sense to me. I played basketball growing up, and the instruction was your right wrist should be cocked like you're shooting a free throw, like you're shooting a
Okay.
basketball. So
All
once
right.
it said that, I'm like, oh, well, that's how I can set it back there. So anyway, that's my that's the
That's your
current
tip.
hot
Wow,
topic.
that That is a rabbit hole. You get people working on their wrists. The swing only takes about half a second, and you're working on setting your wrist.
Setting my wrist.
All right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right, my friend. Well, thanks for the time. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, Pete. I really appreciate it. And that's great insight for people considering selling. And I would thank for everybody for tuning in to Match Play. We'll see you next round. Thanks, Pete. Appreciate
Take care,
friend.
Thank you, Ted.